Hello, welcome to another episode of Martial Arts Movies Mondays. Today, we're taking a deeper dive into yet another martial arts film from my lovely collection back here. And if you've never joined this show before, basically what we do is I take a movie out of my collection. Sometimes it's an older movie, sometimes it's a newer movie. Take a deep dive into it. We talk about not only the movie, the people in it, their legacies, the review of the movie, but also how this movie reflected my own martial arts journey. And there's a cat joining us today that apparently just wandered in here whenever he felt like it. Seriously? I mean, we're doing a show. You're just going to walk across? Yeah, just feel free. Walk on by. Nothing going on here today. Move it, cat. Sorry. The cats come and go as they please, and they'll probably knock some stuff down like he does. Anyway, I try to kick to some different themes, stuff that might have to do with my own martial arts journey, maybe something that's going on right now. Like when we did our Bruce Lee episode, it was because of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because of him being in it. This week is no difference. We're going to be talking about a movie called TC 2000. This lovely movie right here. It's one that's probably not as known by the non-martial arts community, but it stars Billy Blanks. Most people nowadays know him from Tybo. He did a lot of straight-to-video type martial arts flicks. He was a martial arts competitor in his own right. I don't know of all of his credentials, but I think he was a fighter. I'm pretty sure he did fighting and stuff. It might have been tournament-style fighting. I don't know if he was a kickboxer or not. I don't want to lie and say I know because I don't remember. But his most famous thing is the Tybo empire that he's built. But he is a real martial artist. So for anybody that thinks he's just the Tybo guy, he's a martial artist as well. He had parts in, which one was it? Lionheart. He played like a legionnaire that fights Van Damme. He's the football player in The Last Boy Scout that's running and starts shooting people on the field. Then he had a bunch of other random things, King of Kickboxers, of course, TC 2000, a few others. But he's the main star of this movie, along with, I think, it's Bobby Phillips. But also Bolo. This movie is filled with people that was a huge fan of at this time in my not only my martial arts journey, but my movie fandom. Bobby Phillips is not one of them, but Bolo, most know from Enter the Dragon. But he did a whole bunch of movies, Bloodsport, Double Impact, Chinese Hercules, Tiger. I think he was in Tiger Claws 1 and 2. He's done a lot of different stuff, but he's in this one as well. Jalal Merhi, which hopefully I'm saying his name right. I'm horrible with some of their names. Jalal Merhi was another one that I became a big fan of. I got to speak with him a few years back. He's also become a director, but he was in the Tiger Claws movies as well. He's in this one. He did a few of them, kind of the same vibe that a lot of these guys. And last but definitely not least, and again, I apologize if he sees this and I say his name wrong, Matthias Hues or Matthias. I'm going to go with Matthias, and then if I'm wrong, he can correct me. The reason I picked this movie this week was because of him. As much as I love these other guys, I would have talked about this movie eventually. But Mr. Hues is the reason I'm talking about this movie, not because of his request, but because he has a brand new book out that we're going to talk about before the end of the show. And thought, I'm in the process of reading this book right now, so why not pick one of the many movies that he did that I enjoyed and bring them all together and help do a cross promotion for his book, as well as a promotion of the movie for our show. So TC 2000 is one of these post-apocalyptic futuristic. If you look at the cover, it's clearly trying to get the Terminator vibe with Billy Blanks on the cover. And it's funny, is this imagery here is never really in the movie like this, which happens a lot in these movies. But Billy Blanks and Bobby Phillips, is it Bobby Phillips? Yeah, Bobby Phillips, they're partners. They're these TC type cops. So it's got like I said, a Judge Dredd vibe and a Terminator vibe. And so they're rolling around and then there's like these different factions. There's these underground, like Demolition Man, where like these underground rebels. Like I guess all the wealthy have moved into this place where it's safe because there's like a pollution, something with the environment went bad. And then underground are all the rebels and people that are trying to rise up, or the poor or whatever. And so you have Jalal Merhi's character is leading this group. He's got his beret and some face paints, and they're like rebels running around attacking people and stuff like that. And then you have Bolo, who is like this master, and he's got his people over here, and so there's like a lot going on in this movie. And what's funny is there's a lot going on, but little happening in story regard. But to me, it didn't matter because the movie is so fun and jam-packed with fighting. I mean, this movie was literally made to see how many fights you could shove into one movie and still have some semblance of a storyline. I've watched this movie hundreds of times. It's super cheesy, but super fun. I always found it funny is the helmets that the TCs wear are sparring headgear. And I believe this movie was, I don't know if it was directly connected. If I remember correctly, it's at the end of the credits you see it, and I thought it was maybe because the brand Tiger Claw produced it or sponsored it, because at the end it says Tiger Claws TC2000. Tiger Claw, to my knowledge, I guess are still around. I don't know. There was like Century, Macho, and Tiger Claws were like the big ones that I knew of when I was a kid that sold martial arts gear and sparring gear and uniforms and all that stuff. I guess they're still around. I don't know. I do mostly Century and a few other places, Wing Lamb and things like that. But I believe, if I remember correctly, they were kind of one of the sponsors behind it, which explains the headgear. But they took like a standard black foam headgear that we use in our class, normal Velcro thing. It's got like the eyepiece on it, so it gives you like the heat vision, bionic eye look. And when they're on their motorcycles, it has like a welder's mask pulled over the front of the same headgear. It's pretty cheesy and kind of funny, but it's clever because it's showcasing, let's use this because we're showcasing our gear and we'll use this, and it makes sense, but it doesn't because it's the future. And somehow the helmets don't look silly as they really should, because I don't know, I guess the little earpiece gives it some legitimacy. But when they go out to fight, they go in there, and then of course you end up with some cyborg type characters or mind control characters. Like it's got a RoboCop vibe where somebody you think dies comes back as another being of sorts. And then they have mind mapping. So there's so many things borrowed from this movie. But again, this movie's about the fights. This movie's not about how great the story is, good or bad. And there's fights between Billy Blanks and Matthias. Let's call him Mr. Hues. There's fights between Billy Blanks and Hues. There's fights between Bolo and Hues. There's Billy Blanks and Bolo. There's like everybody's fighting everybody. Jalal Merhi versus everybody. It's so much fun. And it seems like you could probably do a drinking game with this and drink every time there's a fight. If you did that halfway through this movie, you'd be plowed. I don't recommend drinking and driving, though. Anyway, it's a fun movie. I don't know its release status. I had a VHS copy, and I basically copied it and put it on DVD, so I just had my own DVD copy. I've never seen it released another way. That doesn't mean it hasn't been. I may reach out to my contacts at Shout Factory and see if there's any plan to release it. I don't think it was part of the Canon group. Doesn't look like it. Anyway, I don't even know. You know what? I wasn't prepared. Let me tell you what year this was. I apologize. We're going to jump in. But it's got like a little bit of everything. And the performances aren't always the best. But again, that's not what you watch these kind of movies for. It's 1993 is when this was made. And the director was T.J. Scott. T.J. Scott did some other stuff. Hold on. I believe there are more martial arts stuff, I believe, if it's the guy I'm thinking of. I don't know why everything's moving slow today. Let's scroll down. He did some of the Taken stuff more recently in Longmire. So he's still in the business. That's good. Gotham. Let's go all the way back down to when this movie came out and see what he was on. Well, ironically enough, he worked on the RoboCop TV series. A lot of the TZ series versions of different things, Young Hercules, things like this. So he went on to do a lot of things. So that's awesome. But I don't know the release status of this specific movie. I've never seen a Blu-ray release for it. I don't know if it ever got a DVD official release. I do know I had a VHS release because I own the VHS. And when I shifted everything over, I just made my own copy just so I could put it in my DVD set. It's not like, it's not even officially released. But if they do release an official version, this thing will go in the trash, and I'll get the real one. And yes, I will pay for it and buy it because I believe in supporting the films, but I wanted a DVD copy so I could keep watching it. So I just copied it myself. It's a fun little movie, like I said, tons and tons of fighting. One of the things I like about these old movies like this is it was like, it seemed like real fighting. Like people like Don the Dragon Wilson and Cynthia Rothrock and Billy Blanks and Jalal Merhi and Bolo and Matthias Hues and all these guys that were coming around this time period. They looked like guys, even Chuck Norris and Van Damme and stuff, but they looked like people that had trained, had standard training in the traditional martial arts, and then got up there and were using it the way it would be used. Now, given this movie, the fights are way over the top sometimes, but they're still not wire work. They're still people kicking. Like I know Mr. Hues does a lot of, he loved the windmill and the crescent kicks. Billy Blanks was a little bit of everything and a lot of the jumping. He had this one where he would jump and do multiple kicks. Cynthia Rothrock liked her scorpion kick. Don Wilson liked that side kick and the back kick, and Chuck Norris liked his spinning back fist and his jumping side kick. So everybody had their own thing that they liked to do, became kind of their signature. But it's not like it is today where everything's either over the top, fast paced, or wire work, which I love that stuff. Don't get me wrong. This stuff just felt grittier and more real. And even when it got cheesy, it was still fun to watch, and they still are. That's why I love these older movies so much more than a lot of the new ones. You know, if I had to compare something like The Raid or Ip Man or stuff like that to these movies now, or Ong Bak, of course the fight scenes and stuff, the movies now are way more amazing and well executed and whatever, but it's different. These were fun. These were movie fights. These were men just being men and throwing down and flexing muscles. And you know, in this one, it has a sequence where Bolo takes his shirt off and Matthias Hues takes his shirt off, and they're flexing their muscles, and it's saying who's going to be the biggest, baddest man on this fight. And then they just beat the snot out of each other. And it just is just a fun movie. And this came out again around a time where, you know, it was during my growth as a martial artist. I got my black belt in, it had to be 1990, graduated 92. So yeah, it had to be about 89, 90 area. And so this was one of the many movies that not only did I watch strictly for the fun and the entertainment, but when I watch these movies, I've talked about on the show before, when I watch these movies, I was watching them, how these people did these kicks, their techniques, their drills, and I would follow them. I'd watch them. I learned a lot of my crescents and windmill stuff from watching Mr. Hues do his stuff. Cynthia Rothrock's flexibility, Van Damme, the way he did his kicking, some of the way Bolo would kind of muscle stuff and throw things, his techniques, things like this. So I picked up a little bit of everything from everybody, and I still to this day do the same thing. When I watch a movie, I watch and dissect fight scenes for myself, not because I'm trying to see if they're good or bad. I dissect them for myself to see what I can learn from it, see what I can improve on, see a different way to put these two techniques together to keep growing myself, and then in turn pass it on to my class and help my students, because most of the people in my classes and stuff like this aren't watching these movies like we did back then. This is one of those that I watched hundreds of times. I think he used to draw my dad. And my dad was like, he's a martial artist as well, but he's like, this movie is so bad. I'm like, this movie is awesome. TC 2000, to my knowledge, it was a straight-to-video movie. I remember renting it, and I rented it, and I rented it, and I rented it. And the reason I had a VHS copy is because the guy at the store, the video store at that time, was the same guy that used to always give me the screener stuff. He finally said, just take a copy home and stop renting it. You've rented it over and over. It's never here anyway. Why don't you just keep it? And so he gave me my first VHS copy of this movie, which I do still have. I have it put away, but I transferred to DVD. One, it started wearing out. That way I have a good copy of it until I get an official copy. So Shout Factory, whoever else, Mill Creek, somebody put out a Blu-ray copy of this movie. So not only I can have a copy, but other people can experience the fun of this movie as well. So TT 2000, great fun movie. Bolo, Jalal Merhi, Mr. Hues, Billy Blanks, Taibo Master, all of them in one place, kicking butt, taking names, and having tons of fun, and flexing muscles all at the same time. The whole source behind doing this episode today, if you don't know Mr. Hues, Matthias Hues, has been in so many different films growing up. He was like the stereotypical bad guy when I was growing up with all these different martial arts flicks. One of his biggest known movies, I think that most people probably know him from, is the movie Dark Angel, aka I Come in Peace. When it came out in 1990, when I saw it in theaters, it was called I Come in Peace. Shout Factory put this one out a year or two ago with its original title, Dark Angel. It's Dolph Lundgren, Matthias Hues, who plays the alien in this movie. It's got one of the best one-line exchanges where his character says, I come in peace. And Dolph Lundgren's like, you go in pieces. And as I goes to kill him or whatever. It's a fun movie. I love it. It's not really fully a martial arts film, although there is some martial arts in it. But it's more of a science fiction action movie to me. I don't classify it as a martial arts flick. Although it was one of the first times I saw Dolph Lundgren actually throwing kicks. I had known he had done some martial arts, but we knew him from Rocky IV, and I think he had done Red Scorpion and that kind of thing. I don't think he had done Showdown in Little Tokyo yet, or any of those kind of movies. But there's a convenience store robbery thing, and he walks over and he like roundhouses the guy and spinning hook kicks the guy. And I'm like, holy crap, Dolph is doing karate. I'm so excited. And Matthias Hues is just awesome, and this is the bad guy alien. So if you haven't checked this movie is available from Shout Factory. It's been out for a couple of years now. Either here or if you find a different company movie, it's called I Come in Peace. It's probably the same movie. But we're bringing this up because he has a brand new book out called Shirtless in Hollywood, right? Yeah, Shirtless in Hollywood. And it's his memoir about his career, his life in the business, what he went through. It's a genius title because every movie he did, I think he's like 6'5", and he's got this long blonde hair. He's very distinct look. He has a look that you would think would be stereotypical for Hollywood, yet somehow he stands out. And I don't know if it's because he was so tall, if the way he carried himself, but anytime he was on screen, I knew we were going to get some awesome fights out of him. And he was one that I couldn't wait to see him in the next day. I couldn't wait to see him fight Mark Dacascos. I couldn't wait to see him fight Don the Dragon Wilson, or if he was going to fight Chuck Norris, if he was going to fight who. I didn't know who he was going to fight. And to my knowledge, I think he's fought most of them on film. But his book, he's done this himself. He's writing it. I don't believe there's any ghostwriters or anything on it. It's about his life, his career in Hollywood, coming here, how he's established his kind of character. And what's funny is he's always ended up shirtless in these movies. So to call your book Shirtless in Hollywood is pure genius. I'm only a little ways into the book because I haven't had time to really get started. I'm hoping to get it in. I will do a full review of it, probably on this show, but also on our website at HollywoodMatrimony.com. But it's a great book so far. Like I said, I'm not far into it. There's already some great stories. But I think anytime somebody puts out a book like this, somebody he's a martial arts icon as far as I'm concerned. You may not have ever heard of him. To me, he's very much like Al Leong, who has a book out as well from years ago, and I'll bring it on when I do one about him. But Al Leong is the guy that they're both guys that you know their faces, you've seen them in movies, but you might not know who they are unless you're somebody like me who's a crazy person and followed them and was obsessed with the martial arts and obsessed with the people that were in the movies and loved all of that stuff. But their stories are so interesting. They have so much to tell you, and their struggles and what they went through and why they succeeded and how they get typecast and how they persevere. Like, he's still making films today. He was in the newest Puppet Master movie that came out, doing a non-martial arts role. And when he showed up in it, he has the coolest death. He's great in the movie, but he's still making. He had 2 other movies that come out with I think one with Mark Dacascos, and I forgot the other one name. But he's still churning them out. I think he's like 60 years old now, very much like, I just went blank. Like Stallone and Lundgren and Chuck Norris and all these people that are still out doing things. Chuck Norris isn't making as many movies now, but he's still out and about and doing stuff. But reading their journeys, it's so cool after living my life as a martial artist. And, my hero in martial arts was my instructor, right? My late instructor passed away in 2008, Mr. DeLuna. And he was like a second dad. I have a dad. My dad's awesome. Love my dad. And my dad was there for me with martial arts. My dad's also a black belt in Taekwondo. We started the journey together. But Mr. Luna was like a second father. He was my martial arts dad. And and he guided me through life and helped me become who I am today in martial arts and probably in real life as well. But it's these guys that help shape me as well. You have people talk about all the time. It's like, oh, I look up to them so much, and usually it's because they look up to somebody because they're pretty, or they look up to somebody because they have muscles or something. To me, there was so much more. It was their techniques, the way they carried themselves, their success, their visual body styles and stuff. And I never was able to match a lot of what they did because I didn't have the drive to do the training the way they did. But what it did do is it always inspired me and would remind me when I got off track to get back. Like right now, I've got to start training to test for next year. So I got to get my butt back in gear. I got to get my butt back in shape. I got to get back to training. And outside of just teaching, I got to train for me. And reading this book has already started to inspire me, to kickstart me in my journey. So it's ironic that this book came out right around the time that I was kickstarting it back to get back on the right track for myself outside of just teaching. So Shirtless in Hollywood by Matthias Hues. It's available now on Amazon. He also has it on Kindle, I believe. Great book so far. If you just like Hollywood stories, it's a great book to pick up. So please, please, please support him. Pick it up. He's such a nice guy. I've got to talk to him via Facebook a couple of times, and hopefully I'll have an interview with him down the line. But he's somebody that I've looked up to, and I highly look forward to not only reading this book, to get a full review to you guys at HollywoodMatrimony.com and go from there. So this week was a little short one because the movie itself, I mean, there's so many fights. There's not a lot about the movie other than to talk about than the fights, right? And if you want to see fights, you can go on YouTube. You can go on his page. You go on Bolo's page. They share fight scenes from this movie. Like he shared the him and Bolo fight on Instagram, I think, or Twitter, I think it was, not long ago. And it reminded me like, oh, I got to rewatch that again. That's why we're doing the show about this. His book, and he shared a clip with him and Bolo fight. And I decided, what a pair, what a match made in heaven for this episode show. So TC 2000, Billy Blanks, Jalal Merhi, Bobby Phillips, Bolo Yeung, Matthias Hues, all together in one place, kicking ass and taking names. And Matthias Hues' book, Shirtless in Hollywood, available on Amazon right now, Kindle, soft cover, solid book. I have to have a book in my hand. I don't like to read on a computer. Both of them are available now. Please go out there and support these guys. Support what they do. He's put in a lot of time in Hollywood, giving me a lot of things. And I reached out to him about getting a book for review. He responded. He was out of the country, and I gave him full props. He's like, if I was in town, I'd send you one for review. And I said, no, what? No, I'm going to buy one. So I went out and bought it. It was not sent to me for free. I bought it and was glad to spend the money to support him because he's given me so much in life, in my own entertainment, my martial arts thoughts, and everything else. So don't forget, check out our website, HollywoodMatrimony.com. You can check us out on the Instagram at Hollywood Matrimony, the Twitter, Hollywood Matter, MATR, and the Facebook, Hollywood Matrimony, where we do multiple shows here on our YouTube channel and Hollywood Matrimony Live on there. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of TV Tuesdays. We apologize we didn't do one last week. We had a lot going on, excuse me. But we'll be back next week for tomorrow for another episode. It may be a little bit later in the day. I don't know yet because some of the schedules are changing. Thursday, be back for another weekly update of all the news, trailers, and things going on in TV and movies throughout the week. An episode of What's on My Desk in My Mind will show up sometime this week. And we'll be back for another episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live on Sunday. That will simulcast both right here on this YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. And we'll be coming live from Mississippi this Sunday, where I'm going to be attending the Golden Triangle Comic Con as one of the feature artists. And then I'll be back here on Monday for another episode of Martial Arts Movie Mondays, where we take a deep dive into a random martial arts movie from my collection. And eventually, we'll talk about this book all over again. Thank you for watching. Make sure you click the subscribe button down below. And if you show up later, if you're not watching this live, click on this the subscribe button right here on this little orb that has the Hollywood Matrimony sign on it. Click on it, the subscribe button, hit that button, and then you can watch a trailer. If I can find the trailer for TC 2000, I'll slap it up over here so you can check it out in all its glory. Thank you again, and as always, make sure you keep your hands up, and I greatly appreciate you, and I will see you next time.